switch to you. Yes. I didn't test it before and I was like, oh my God, this is not going to work, but it is working. Yay.
Of course it's working.
So we have a new website. Tum, tum, tum.
Pretty exciting.
thenakedtruth.com. Paul, why did we need a new website?
Because we just didn't have enough on our plate. So why not just add one more thing to our plate by building a new website?
Right?
You know, we just you first approached me about doing this show, and you know, so its temporary home where we tested it out was at your viral connectivity site, but you know, we're not the viral connectivity show, so it makes sense at some point, right? If we're like, yeah, this is fun, we're going to stick with it, then we need like a home. So, and you're always saying, don't build your site on rented, don't build your home on rented properties.
Don't build your home on rented properties.
So we got a property, right?
Get a home.
So,
and so guys,
cool.
This is super cool actually. Let's share this with them. So this is our new home, The Naked Truth, thenakedtruth.com. And here's the cool stuff that you can expect here. First of all, you can hop on in to the live tab, like this, like so and like that. And what you can find is, first of all, you can find all the links to all the stuff that we're going to be talking about right here on that specific page. And you can click on this beautiful image and get notified when we are live. You click on it, it pops up, just put your name and email, and we're going to let you know every time we're live so that you can hop in and talk to us. And right here on the bottom, click this, and you're going to join us in the conversation in real time. And if you don't want to, you can just type a comment right here and let us know, you know, any questions, any comment, anything that you're talking about, that you're interested in, because what we're going to be doing is something super cool. Every Friday, Paul, look up, every Friday, we are going to do... I was
looking at site stuff. I can't, it's so new and shiny to me. I'm like, oh, look at that. You did that thing over there.
So every Friday, we're going
to give stuff away.
We're going to give stuff away to all those who comment with questions, comment, advice, anything that you want. Just put those comments in. We're going to show you where. We're going to have a little page of comment. Go ahead.
It's important that you all remember that Ifat is not a native English speaker. So when she literally just said, we're going to give away things to all those that comment, that's not what she meant. We will not be giving things away to everyone who comments.
That's right. That is right. That is true. We are going to give away to one person. We're going to show you. We're going to do a drawing. And we are going to take your questions. We're going to have a page for you to put your questions in, vote on it, and then we can answer your questions in real time. So if you missed the lives, or if you want to engage with us, but you have a question that just pops up, come on over here and you're going to see a tab for questions. Comment your questions, vote on the questions that you actually want answered, and we're going to answer it for you. So we will have a place. We have a place for you guys to come in and interact with us in real time. I'm very excited about it. Aside of that, we also have some musings to muse about today. And one of those musing is how the coronavirus is changing education. Right? So Scott Galloway predicts that an elite of cyborg universities will soon monopolize higher education. And
totally makes sense to me.
What's that?
I said this totally makes sense to me.
Right, but it's really interesting because what he's talking about is like now it's going to be Google MIT or Facebook UCLA, right? Or Apple something. And he's talking about why those companies are going to get into education, which is not because they want to, it's because they have to start making money. And it's very hard to justify the fact that like I'm paying $100,000 for a Zoom conversation, right? And so what becomes very valuable is not necessarily the education itself, like the content, but the certification that you get. So like I have a degree from MIT that automatically levels you up. I have a Harvard degree that automatically levels you up. So Google wants to be attached to that certification. And what they're going to bring to the table is going to be how to manage online education. And that's where the combination is going to happen. And what happened is like, what?
It makes me think of that show that we both like, Upload, where in that show, there's all these brands that are combined brands.
Oh yeah.
Did you remember? It's a
Yeah.
subtle thing they do. They don't ever really talk about it openly, but in the future, in that show, it's like Facebook Taco Bell. Like
Right.
there's stuff like that where you go, what? Like, why would those two brands be together? But it's
Right. It's really interesting. And he goes like, that's going to be like in the next 5 to 10 years, where all the low-level universities are just going to disappear because you're going to have those, MIT and UCLA that have the money and the funding to kind of like continue during this transition. The second-tier universities are going to kind of like be there, but not going to be able to charge that much, and everybody else will just be gone. And he's talking about the value is that it's going to be, because you don't have to put butts in seats anymore, more people are going to have access to higher education for less money, but then the higher universities are going to cost just as much because of the prestige that they have, right? Like the MIT prestige, the Harvard prestige, not necessarily because of what you're going to get from there.
Well, and that's where it gets really weird to think about too, right? Because you go, then you're really getting into like pure like how consumers look at brands. So like who says that Harvard is going to be the best at doing online education? But people just think Harvard is so great that if you were going to choose, right, like I want to get a good education in an online format, there'd probably be a lot of people that would be like, yeah, I better do it with the Harvard one.
So what he's talking about is that not the education is better, it's just that the certificate is valued more. So that's what it is.
I mean, it's the same thing. Is I'm like, look, a certificate is worth what the paper that it's printed on is worth.
Well, or it's worth what you think it is, right?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So,
but like society,
what we've done is we've created a society where we care about brands so much.
Right.
But again, like I get that Harvard is a storied institution and has some of the greatest teachers in the world, right?
Yeah.
But like, does that automatically transfer to like if Harvard did this? You go, well, you can't assume. It's just a very interesting.
Yeah. So what he's talking about is not necessarily like what type of education, but knowing that if you're going to Harvard because the process was so difficult, like because they filter so many people out, you're going to expect a certain level of people to be there. And so you're paying really for access to that level of people that don't have criminal records, that, did service in the community, that have higher right? So it's not, so that's why they have a higher, higher prestige, whatchamacallit. Whatchamacallit. That's why people look up to him, right? Because there's a certain level of scrutiny of getting into those places. So, you want to be with best. I don't know.
The thing that makes me think about is the streamlining of education potentially and the trimming of the fat. Like, so I used to work at a university, right? And I got out a few years before the 2008 financial crisis.
Okay.
And what I saw when I was working at the university was that there were a whole lot of people at the university who shouldn't have been there. Wow. Like what's happened in America, right, is we've created this unsustainable economic bubble in which we have over 4,000 institutions. And in order to stay in business, they just keep boosting enrollment. And so now you're at a point where there are people who don't have the academic credentials to go to college, and yet they're being admitted to college. And so it so like flagged for me a few years later when I got out, when in 2008, the mortgage crisis happened, because it was the same idea, right? As banks kept giving loans to people who didn't have the financial credentials to really get those loans, and yet they got them. And I was like, that's exactly what happens at colleges and universities, is they let in so many kids who aren't going to make it. Like, and if they do make it, if they do manage to get through and get a degree, they're probably not, like the stats, the data says like almost 50% of students don't get a job in the degree that they get their degree with, right? And so there's going to be some point where like it's just not sustainable. It's a bubble and it's going to pop. And like, what happens when maybe what facilitates the pop is this next phase where you go, so if you're going to do all this online stuff, and then you don't need so many physical schools with all their buildings,
Right.
that also means you don't need as many professionals. You don't need as many professors and adjunct professors and associate professors. Like, there's going to be a huge
Right.
ripple,
Yeah.
set from that.
Yeah. I'm always curious about like, so I went to UT here, and so at the beginning I went to the community college, right? Because I was a foreign, like I wasn't a resident, so it was super expensive, and I couldn't get into UT without having some, American credentials. So I went to community college, and I'm like, dude, this is so easy. And people are like, that's because it's community college. Wait until you get to the university. So then I get to the university, and I'm like, this is so easy. And they're like, how come is it so easy for you? And I was like, because the teachers here, they beg for you to pass. I'm like, they have right? They'll do anything for you to pass. So you go to an assistant and someone reads your paper before you even submit it, and you don't need to memorize anything. I had a teacher who did a review of the material right like 30 minutes before the test. And I'm like, if you failed this, like, how dumb are you? Right?
Yeah,
But people are like, so I don't know what it is about.
It's a scary system.
What's that?
It's a scary system because it's not just one thing, it's multiple factors, but our educational system is not what it used to be. Yeah, not even at the college level. Yeah.
But like, what do you do in high school that people are not ready for college? Like, how hard is college? You choose your classes. You don't take as many classes as you do in high school because you only take like 5, 6, right? Classes. So like, it's more paper based. Like what?
So, but it's skills. It's the skills. So I can tell you, I graduated third in my class in high school. Mm-hmm. I graduated third in my class out of 168 students, right?
Yeah.
So I came out of high school thinking like I was pretty hot shit, right? I was like, I graduated third in my class. And I went to my state university, and at my state university, they required that you take a freshman English class. Mm-hmm. And I had the department chair as my professor in my freshman English class. This great guy named Thomas Carnicelli. Was coming to the end of his career, had been there a long time. And so he was sort of representing the old guard, right? Of the way, like, his expectations were not matching where we were at. And I learned that the hard way. Like, so we had every week I had a one-on-one meeting with him, and I went into my first one, and he looked at my paper and he goes, Mr. Ramsey, he goes, you got some work to do. And I was like, I didn't say it because I would never be disrespectful. In my head, I was like, what are you talking about? I graduated third in my class. Like, I got straight A's. Like, and he just went through and was like, and he showed me all these ways in which he was basically like, you're not nearly as good a writer as you think you are.
So you're saying high school is failing the kids, or is?
So yeah, what happens is it starts at the early levels and it just keeps getting worse because the more and more the teachers are in a very dysfunctional system. The teachers do the best they can. As a former teacher, I know that, but they get constantly so much pressure put on them because of like laws and parents, and that they can't hold, like, kids don't get held back anymore. You have to basically you gotta murder someone to get held back. You gotta
don't tell it to
me. I have to repeat second grade. Oh, because I killed a kid. Like, and so these kids get passed forward, and they're not ready. And so this thing about, like, when you go to third grade and really you should have been held back, then you go to fourth grade and you should have been held back, and it just gets worse and worse. So that's when I was a teacher. I taught 10th grade high school English. I had 10th graders who I had a couple that just could not, like, they couldn't even write in complete sentences.
What? And
they had made it all the way to 10th grade. We'd have to spend hours. It's about like, it's about, I don't want to say it like I'm blaming, but ever since it all started with like the American with Disabilities Act and how that evolved over time into the way that students were given learning deficiency codes and stuff like that. And then how, like, it got to the point where, like, then people would sue if they felt like their kids' disabilities weren't being honored. And it got very complex. It literally would take hours, and people write books about it. And but it transformed the culture of education to a place where eventually like teachers just didn't know what to do. Basically, like if I hold this kid back, me and the school could get sued. If I don't hold them back, I'm going to be making it harder for them. Cause you know, like it's complex. Yeah.
So, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this online education. I mean, because now you can take it kind of like at your own pace. And you only...
Yeah. It's probably not going to get harder. I know the way the trend is going, I don't think you're going to see everything getting harder.
No, it's very interesting, isn't it? It's kind of like the... I was looking at Leon's workload, right? And it's like, dude, you finish the whole thing in like an hour, maybe, right? Like if you're lazy and you're like, I don't know, it takes you an hour to do that. But if you were in school, you'll be sitting in school for about 8 hours. What are you doing in those 8 hours that, now you finish it in an hour? So either they become more efficient, they learn less, they apply. Very interesting to see where that goes. So what I'll be, so guys, if you are interested in kind of like where this is going and the disruption in education, we have this link on our website, which is basically thenaked.com/live. You'll find the link right here and you can come in and read it. And talking about the second one, which I believe is not this one, not this one, it's this one, Beyond the Call, right here on our website.
How nice is this? I thought this one was really nice.
Yeah, companies have stepped up during the COVID-19. So talk about this, Paul.
So found this in my sort of daily thing that comes from LinkedIn, and the author wrote about 20 companies that are doing great things in the face of the pandemic. And it talked about things like one company that just made as a pottery company in Massachusetts that made mugs, and the proceeds from selling the mugs go to help frontline workers.
There we go. This one?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, so like things where you go, little companies, doing the, and then the Wits End, that was a restaurant.
But they had it closed.
Yeah, so the restaurant got closed, and then the owner was like, well, we can do something. And so the owner's brother was a doctor, and they converted the restaurant into a medical facility to do testing.
Oh, wow.
And the owner like leveraged whatever strengths he could in his existing employees. So like he let his dishwasher be the cleaner who disinfects the place all day long. And like he found stuff like that to do. So there he's keeping the people working, and they're serving people and helping people. But now even look at, there's one in there about Starbucks.
Oh yeah.
And like, like find the one on Starbucks. Like Starbucks is like, again, I'm amazed at Starbucks does so much stuff that you will hear other business, like big companies say you can't do that. And I'm like, well, Starbucks does it. Like Starbucks is, Starbucks is basically telling their people, like, if you don't feel safe, stay at home and we'll still pay you at a minimal level. And they're doing all this different stuff trying to support they started doing a hardship loan program for their employees.
Nice.
Like, yeah, they're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, it's just, it's
really
amazing.
It's really, really cool when it's a very interesting part of humanity, right? Like, so remember Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer?
Yeah.
Remember his analogy of the orange? Maybe
I
not.
don't.
So he would go up on stage and he would say like, hey, so when you take an orange and you squeeze it, what comes out?
Orange juice.
Orange juice. Why?
Because that's what's inside.
And so when you take a person and you squeeze them, what comes out?
Right. Well, literally it would be shit, but let's work within the metaphor.
But he's talking, right? He goes like stress, anxiety, anger, right?
Yeah.
Fear. What comes out, right? Whatever inside. And so what's really beautiful about this whole pandemic thing is you really seeing what's inside people and companies, what's coming out when we're getting squeezed. And luckily, there's
Yeah.
some beauty to it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. My Jesse on Facebook just wrote, Burton Snowboards put board production on hold to make face masks. You know,
Yeah,
it's funny. Like, again, it's one of the things I talk with clients about is intention and attention, right? Like,
right.
how do you set your intention each day, and where does your attention go? And it's real easy right now for our attention to just keep going to the scary stuff. Meanwhile, there's probably a lot more people out there than any of us realize trying to do really good things. And it's important to look for that stuff.
It's true. I got a message from my cousin in Israel where she shared an article where people are like, well, everybody's talking about how well Israel was doing during the corona and all that stuff, but they completely ignore statistical there we go. But they completely ignore statistical data and models that show that we didn't have to do all the stuff that we did. And, there's nothing to congratulate the government about because look at the graphs and everything. And I was like, and it's only like, 0.0%, and that only went up to 2%. So that's not a lot. And I was like, what's interesting about that stuff? First of all, the data is after the fact, right? So,
Right. Yeah, you go, easy for you to say now,
right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, well, we got the news that there's a virus with no vaccine. What do we do? So Israel jumps into action, right? Social distancing, mask, everything, putting people in hotels. Now, 3 months down the line, you're just taking it to the extreme. I'm like, okay, so what would you have preferred? Do nothing and
Do nothing.
then wait for the
how
data?
often do people really like, we just should have done nothing? Who's going to accept that, you know? Yeah.
I'm like, and I was like, so the data is always like behind. And when you're infected and you're that part of that 0.0%, it doesn't matter the data, right? Like if your son gets sick or your mother gets sick or you get sick and you die from complication, great, it's only 0.0%. But you're that percentage. So what do you prefer?
Yeah. I have a colleague who is very, very intelligent and takes the time to read those kind of studies and stuff. And he made a post, I don't know, a week or two ago where he's like, all right, so basically the more stuff I read, the more the data shows that like all the stuff that we're doing in the United States is meaningless. He literally said meaningless. And I was like, how can that be? Like, how can it, I was like, I don't understand. Like, maybe I truly am like just not grasping. But I was like, if you start to show symptoms and you go, I'm showing symptoms, so I'm going to self-quarantine. How can that be meaningless? How can you not going out and spreading it to other people be meaningless?
Right.
I just don't, I'm like, if someone can really explain that well to me, like not on a theoretical, like broad basis, yeah, I don't know.
It's and I was reading this and I was like, okay, it's really nice that you're criticizing and you're bringing up models. What's your alternative? Like, I haven't heard an alternative.
Yeah,
Where's the, we should have what? Like, can you give that? I was like, it's very easy to sit on the sideline and go like, well, I'm thinking that. I was like, okay. You know what they
Armchair
say about
quarterbacking,
opinions, right?
what they call that.
Right?
Do we have any other musings?
We
We're
do
up
have
for
another musing. So
5 minutes.
another
I want to keep
musing.
us.
Have you heard of this type of meditation? It's called Sophrology.
Sophrology?
Have you heard of that?
I have not heard of that. Tell me more.
I have not heard of it either. So I just saw this and I thought, man, this will be really cool because it's used to treat depression, PTSD with breathing exercises and a little bit about yoga and Buddhism. So there's a video right here that walks you through basically some suggestions and breathing techniques. So you are guided through simple sequences of exercises that you do to connect with yourself, connect with your body, and connect with your mind. And the goal is to find positive resources to deal with daily lives. So I haven't tried this, but I encourage everyone, including myself, to take watch this video, give it a shot, and just let us know because I know that breathing exercises are fantastic.
Always.
Right?
Always.
And sometimes it's hard when you're like so in your head to kind of like focus down and just like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's yeah.
So the way that your vagus nerve, your 10th cranial nerve comes out of your brainstem and it runs down your carotid, and it runs around your heart and across your diaphragm, and then it branches out. It goes all the way down. It's the single longest nerve pathway in your whole body. And it connects. It's basically 80% of it is afferent. So it collects information viscerally from the rest of your body, but 20% of it is efferent. It allows you to send information from your brain out to your body. And so it's really, really importantly connected to how your heart and your breathing change in like fight or flight mode. And so if you get it, like I like to geek out on that stuff. I won't go any further than that because I know not everyone does, but I'll tell you, like the research is clear, and it goes back to it's what we knew but we couldn't prove for thousands of years. It's why yoga and Tai Chi and martial arts and meditation all have these purposeful breathing components. It's a way to regulate your heart and your breathing. So when you get in trouble, you don't just let yourself stay in trouble. You use conscious processes to, and there's the great thing is they're simple. They really are. They're so easy. You can do them in a park or on a bench or in your car in a parking lot. Sometimes it's as simple as singing. It's called vagal braking. Like if you force yourself to regulate your breathing, like when you're singing, right? Then you can't, that's like your panic when people start to get stressed. Don't let yourself do that. And a great way to do it is just by humming or singing, where you're flattening your breathing. And there's great benefits to that stuff.
That would have been good to know when Leo got his blood test. He was hyperventilating.
Yeah, you saw it, right? When he got panicked, he and then it can happen to the point where people will vomit, and they'll do that kind of stuff. And so if you can catch it early and refocus it to singing a happy song, preferably like not singing literally with lyrics, but like just what you're doing is you're squeezing your breath and you're making it not just you're making it smooth out, and it changes brain waves and heart waves, and it's amazing.
Man, we should have talked about that before Friday, because
we could talk about that. One of my dreams is if we could get Dr. Stephen Porges to come on this show. He literally wrote the polyvagal theory, and it's amazing. And I would love to be able to pick his brain about stuff relative to that.
Yeah. It's fascinating because when you don't know it, like all I said to him is like, stop hyperventilating, stop
It was like he was going to go, oh, okay.
He did. He actually stopped it. I was like, breathe, dude. But I was like, I wasn't very kind of like, come on, let's breathe together and all that stuff. Because I'm like, come on, stop this. Let's just get it and be done with it. But so it'll be a fantastic show for us to talk about later on. So if you guys want to try this meditation, all you have to do is come to bethenakedtruth.com/live, and right here you will have a link to the article, and you can come to this video here, give it a try, and let us know in the comments right here whether or not it worked for you, right, Paco? Paco says, Paul, you're an expert. So that is fantastic. And so tomorrow we are going to so actually, guys, here's one amazing thing that we did that we didn't talk about. What we're doing with our show, we're breaking it down. So every day, right, we're very
Tomorrow's Tuesday, which means
Tools Tuesday, we are going to be talking about a new tool. So every Tuesday, this is super cool. If you want to know what we're talking about, all you have to do is come into Be the Naked Truth, and right here on our shows, you'll see exactly what we're talking about every day, so you can be part
We've
of
refined our format.
Our format. We have a format that we can actually jump into. So tomorrow we are talking about a new tool that I geek out about, and when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I gave it to my team, and I'm sharing it with my favorite people. And when you going to see this, you are going to love me and send me love letters, because you'll be like, oh my God, she saves me so much time. And she helps me create like really amazing content with ease and effortless and all that stuff. So tomorrow, join us on bethenakedtruth.com/live. We're going to talk about the tool. We're going to walk you through this, and we're going to geek out on some of the stuff that I geek out about, hopefully. So until then, This is our Monday musing. Come onto our website, let us know, because we on Friday are going to show you something super cool. Out of all the people that are commenting on our site, we're going to give one of you something amazing.
Jesse Reel, go put the link you just sent me in Messenger on the site so people can read it. And then when you do that, it will qualify you for the giveaway on Friday.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Just like that, mic drop. So bye everybody, have a fantastic week. We'll see you tomorrow on Tuesday Tools.